All righty. Here we are, my friends. Here we are. Now there he is. Okay, good. I was like, Lady Dane is here. Yes, good. And Ryan, hooray. Happy to see you. Hi, everybody. I am Manuela Goyanes. I'm the artistic director of Woolly Mammoth Theater Company. I am zooming in from Washington, D.C., which is the ancestral homeland of the Nacotchtank people, whose descendants are the Piscataway people. I'm so thrilled to welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining this Zoom and Facebook Live. This is our second Woolly's Wonderlist conversation and the first duo of the series. Yes, it is. So Woolly's Wonderlist is a new series where I get to basically sit down with amazing people who inspire me and Woolly Mammoth and hear about what's currently inspiring them. We'll dig into ideas and influences, experiences that have shaped their careers and get their unique perspectives on the summer of 2020, which is now over. It is officially fall. I have seen the leaves fall. This is insane. Before I introduce these incredible artists, I want to actually invite everybody to type in the chat if you want to let us know where you're, coming in from, and acknowledge actually the native lands that you are inhabiting as well. So I couldn't be more excited to be spending time with not one, but two incredible artists. Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi and Ryan Haddad. Ryan J Haddad, sometimes professionally known as Ryan J Haddad. So first off, I want to say I know Lady Dane, the first script that was given to me by the literary department at Woolly Mammoth, before I even got the job, Lady Dane, was for Black trans girls who got to cuss a motherfucker out when snatching an edge ain't enough. And I was like, this is amazing. And they were like, we want to do something with this. And I was like, okay, I haven't started the job yet. I was like, hold your horses, hold up. So we actually did a reading of for Black trans girls as part of complicating sort of the feminist perspective around our first production of She the People with Second City. And that blew the roof off of the theater at Woolly Mammoth, so much so that it made me, I was sitting in the back of the house and I was like, we got to take this to New York. More people got to see this. We got to make this happen. And so we actually went to Joe's Pub and did a reading of it in New York City and co-presented it with Laverne Cox, and that was pretty amazing. So Lady Dane is dubbed the ancient jazz priestess of Mother Africa. Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi is a Nigerian, Cuban, indigenous American performance artist. She is a Helen Hayes winning, as of recent, Helen Hayes winning playwright for Clytemnestra, an epic slam poem. Shout out to Theater Alliance, anybody who has worked there or seen shows there. Yay, Raymond Caldwell.
Yeah, they are like sweeping this year at the Helen Hayes. Theater Alliance is sweeping, yeah.
Good, awesome. More power to them. So Lady Dane is an actress, an author, an educator, speechwriter, an advocate, a dramaturg, founding member of Force Coalition, choreographer, co-editor of the Black Trans Prayer Book. She received an Emerging Leader Award for her work with the DC trans community, as well as a Trans Latinx DMV's Community Artist Award. Hooray, I'm so happy that you're here, Lady Dane. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, please, so lucky to have you. And now I'm gonna go to Ryan J Haddad. I know Ryan from the Public Theater. I remember, weren't you like working in the literary department with like Jesse Alec and them?
I started as an intern.
I remember being like, he is a chatty Cathy. He wants to come and hang out and talk about plays.
I don't know if I was that bold with you. I think I was nervous. Maybe.
I adore you, Ryan, and I feel so lucky that we are going to be making your play Hire You Single so soon. It was actually part of our season announcement this year. Ryan is an actor, a playwright, an autobiographical performer based in New York. You might recognize him from his recurring role on the Netflix series, The Politician.
Work.
And he has worked at Williamstown Theater Festival, the Guthrie Theater, Cleveland Playhouse, the Public Theater, so many different places as a performer as well as a writer. And he is actually the recipient of Ayama Theater Company's Shonda Rhimes Unsung Voices Playwriting Commission. What?
Work, Shonda Rhimes.
I know, I didn't know Shonda was into the theater. I was like, great.
It means I have to write a new play, which is a horrifying prospect. But I'm very grateful for it.
It is. I mean, I can imagine. It's a little bit pressure once you actually put Shonda Rhimes in front of the word commission, right?
You're just like, They know I haven't started it, but they know what I want it to be. So I'm grateful for their support and understanding that in a pandemic, it's hard to generate new ideas. Yeah.
Well, we are going to talk about that. Actually, we are going to get right into that.
I need to do you need to finish, or I need to introduce, whatever. I started already, so.
Where are you calling from, Ryan?
I am calling from the native lands of the Erie people, now known as Cleveland, Ohio, or the suburb of Parma, Ohio, in the basement of my parents' house, where I did many musicals by myself as a little boy.
Lady Dane, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from, Piscataway, People's Lands, DC.
Have you all been here? So when did you get to Cleveland, Ryan? And have you been in DC the whole time, Lady Dane?
Yeah. I mean, I've lived in DC off and on since 2002. I came here for university, and so, here I am in my apartment. And my partner is here, so like my partner is in DC, and so, it's like Maria's been trying to get me to go to New York for like a while, and I'm like, listen, I'll go to New York when I get me a gig there, okay? They gotta pay me.
Yeah.
I just want you to have the largest platform ever. I want you to come back and be in DC also, but I also want you to be as visible and amplified as possible. You know what I mean? So I don't want to hear it from other people on Facebook being like, she wants people to leave DC and stop doing theater in DC. That is not true. That is not true. Ryan, so you got to Cleveland. Did you get to Cleveland early on in the pandemic?
Yeah, the day I don't know what people define as early, but the day Broadway shut down, I was like, it's over, goodbye. And so the next day I was on a plane in the morning. And I remember the night before I texted a couple of my best friends. It was like, by the way, I'm leaving. I think I'll be back like April 1st or whatever. And they were like, wait, you're leaving? What? That's so shocking. And then 12 hours after I land, one of the people who was like surprised that I was leaving was on a plane to Texas. Like she was just like, okay. And
like Ryan had the tip before everybody else had the tip. He's like, Broadway's going down, Ryan's out.
We're out. And the night before Broadway shut down, I was at Trader Joe's, and there was not a single piece of meat to be bought at Trader Joe's. And I was like, it's over. The world, it's the end of it. So I'm going to go home and be with my family. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you both are safe and healthy. I want to start, actually, I'm going to go to the lightning round questions so we can get into it. The lightning round questions are the questions that we are going to be asking every Wonderlist participant and sharing out the answers at the end of the series to give folks a giant list of amazing recommendations from all of these artists. So I am going to start, I'm going to ask one question. Lady Dane, you'll answer first, then Ryan, and then I'll go to the next question. Sound good?
Gotcha.
All right, good. So let's start with what you've been reading.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. See, I prepared a whole like visual for this. Okay. All right.
Good. Okay,
So
I'm
of
ready.
course, every now and again, I'm reading the Black Trans Prayer book, which I co-edited. Shameless plug. Go pick it up, everyone.
Shameless plug. Put it in the chat.
Right. Wayward Lives and Beautiful Experiments by Saida Hartman.
Ooh.
No No Boy it's a novel by John Okado.
Oh.
Comfort Woman, it is by Maria Rosa Henson.
How much time? Wait. You're a busy person. You're reading 5 books at once?
Yeah, so part of it is also for my commission with Baltimore Center Stage that I'm writing.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, wow. Okay, we're going to get into that. I'm curious to know what it's about. Okay, wait, did you finish your list?
No, they were her property by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. And then, of course, because I'm a huge nerd, right? I call myself a sexy nerd, right? Black Panther graphic novel. This is the second volume, which is the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda.
And Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote them, right?
Yep.
So good. So good. That's hard to follow that up.
It's impossible. So no, I love my dear friend, and I'm gonna plug his book. His name is Justin Koretskis, and he wrote a book called Famous People, which is a novel that masquerades as a memoir by a young pop star. So it's as though you're reading a young pop star's memoir, a white male young pop star who might or might not resemble someone maybe named Justin Bieber, perhaps.
I was going to say, it's Justin Bieber, isn't it? It's Justin Bieber.
And I didn't know if I should say that, but Justin Koretskis, he is fabulous. He is married to the wonderful playwright Celine Song, who I know you know.
Wow.
Public.
Yeah.
And I met him when I saw Celine's play Endlings at ART, and they said he has a book coming out, and I was like, okay. And I got his book, and I love his book, and I'm also a very slow reader, so like Lady Dane is reading 6 and 10 at a time, and I've been reading one for like the length of the whole pandemic. Like, one book.
That's fine. There's a pandemic outside. I'm like, take your time. Like,
but I love it, and I love Justin. It's so funny, and it's also heartbreaking, and it makes you go like, wow, there's more to a pop star, I guess. I won't say Justin because I want to believe that this character that my friend Justin wrote is more layered and deep and more interesting than the person that might or might not have inspired the book.
I gotta get that. I gotta get all these, actually.
Famous People. I only said the title once. Famous People.
Oh, thank you. I think that we are putting it in the chat. Thank you so much. What are you watching?
oh my goodness, what am I watching?
Yes.
Ooh, so I just finished.
You're too busy reading books.
I know.
You're too busy reading books.
I also watch things too. I watch a lot of news, of course. I was a political commentator in a few years ago. In another life. And then I just finished this series called Mistruth. It's out of, I think it's a Chinese historical drama. It's like a detective show, but it's like in history. I finished The Umbrella Academy. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so I'm watching Star Trek Lower Decks.
You're a Star Trek fan?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You go to the conventions and stuff?
I don't do that yet. And like, this was supposed to be the year where I was gonna go to like Comic-Con with my sisters and like to the Star Trek conventions, and then like Miss Rona and sashayed her ass up on the world stage, and that shifted that. But
I'm learning so much. I love it. Star Trek: The Next Generation is my jam, I have to say. Fortunately or unfortunately. Ryan, what are you watching?
Rami, I just finished Rami, which is a wonderful show on Hulu, and also just finished the first season of Pen 15, and also on Hulu. And the second season comes out on Friday, so I'm just going straight through.
You're just basically gonna be like, I'm plopping myself down. I'm gonna see this whole thing.
That's why I've only read, one book. So.
Oh boy. Okay, so what are you listening to, Lady Dane?
I am listening to Melvin and the Bluebells. I was listening to them today because Sharon Page, she can sing her behind off. And then Whitney Houston, of course. And of course, I had to prepare for the verses. And, I had to listen to my main, Mama Patty and Auntie Gladys. So, yeah, those are, and Cy Smith, who's actually an artist from DC. She's one of my big sisters. She's a great independent artist. I've been listening to a lot of her music as well. And Yajira, who's also a DC artist. I think Yajira's in New York and Cy is in California, but yeah.
Maybe in that. Thank you for that. Ryan, what you listening to?
I have a podcast that I love by an actress friend, Alana Levine, who was the original Lucy in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, or not the original, but in the revival in 1989. And she does a weekly podcast continuing through the pandemic for a year, called Little Known Facts. And she interviews all kinds of entertainment luminaries and also up and coming people. When she interviewed me, I was definitely not a luminary. I was an up and coming person. But it's literally like,
you were a luminary inside, Ryan.
But they're really intricate, personal, and kind interviews. And it's helped in these last 6 months to still feel connected in some ways to the entertainment world, to the theater world, by getting to know the inside of these people's hearts. And the other thing is an oldie that I just have to throw out. It's on Spotify. It is B. Arthur's cabaret show called B. Arthur on Broadway, Just Between Friends. I think it's out of print, so you can't even go and buy it. But B. Arthur on Broadway, Just Between Friends. She was like, when she's doing this cabaret, the best combination of songs and stories. And, she's not like, she's 80, so her voice, she's not belting her face off, but she's telling the story through song, and I just love it. And there's a track called The Soup Ladle, which I highly
I used to love
the track called
love that, and Elaine Stretch's show.
Oh, Elaine!
Yeah. Back when CDs, when we listened to CDs, remember that?
Absolutely, on CD, but I think you can also see Elaine's whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think that you can.
Maria, were you at the Public at that time?
No, I actually, so the story is that they were rehearsing at the Public, Elaine Stritch's At Liberty, when 9/11 happened. Thing is that Elaine let down below 14th Street because she pushed her way through and said, I gotta get to rehearsal. It fixed everything. I gotta get to rehearsal. And she just pushed her way to the Public. No one is there. Woman, what a fire, right? I have been joking with Lady Dane and Ryan about a cabaret show, and now I'm having this sort of be-back special as Ryan Haddad and Lady doing it. I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of brilliant.
I'm sure, but since we mentioned our future cabaret that Maria is the doula of, that in my mind the best medicine is ABBA, and I particularly a fan of Mamma Mia 2, the sequel, not Mamma Mia 1, Keep Alive, but the sequel is just there's something about it, and so I think we could do some ABBA in the style of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
How do you feel about that? Winner takes it all, perhaps. It could maybe the highlight. It could be the 12 o'clock number. We're crying, we're falling out, you know what I mean?
The winner has taken it. Oh, you know I've sung that alone in my kitchen, holding a chef's knife while cutting vegetables.
You use a chef's knife as your microphone?
No. But I was like making a salad or something, singing "The Winning Takes It All" with about a boy and about heartbreak and hope and all of those things. And so
so it's either B. Arthur or an ABBA themed cabaret concert. Okay, producers out there, you've heard this. We're putting this out into the universe. This needs to happen.
Super
Trooper. I'm not sure that Wooly will be producing an ABBA cabaret anytime soon, I will say. It's not really on mission. That'll be mission creep. I think maybe the board would be like, I don't know, Maria's going a little off brand here.
Other songs in there. It don't gotta just be ABBA.
That's not part of.
That's true. That's true. It would have to be pretty subversive in the way that you did the ABBA. I'm going to keep us going. So listen, you all have been very busy this summer. And so I want to hear the highlights of what you've been up to because,
and actually a follow person. There was one more question that I just want to say it out loud. Who are you following was the question, and the answer is Amani Barbarin on Twitter and Instagram. Crutches and Spice is the handle, I think, on Instagram, and Amani Barbarin is the handle on Twitter. An amazing, fabulous Black disabled woman who is just, her takes on everything that's happening in the world is related to disability and Black justice is like, it just knocks me out every day and sometimes multiple times a day. So I had to say it. So thank you.
I know, I'm so glad that you did. Lady Dane, do you want to tell, who you following?
Okay, all right. J Mace III, of course. We're doing a book release party on Sunday. I have a new book coming out on Friday. I know we're gonna get to that later. I have a new book coming out on Friday. And J Mace just released a new book. His book is called White Folks We Tripping. And so he's like someone who I'm like, yes, follow him on Instagram. In the Marsha P. Institute, I follow them on Instagram. There's someone who I want to uplift. And also Kate Ulande Barrett, who is an amazing trans mask person of color, who's also disabled, an amazing poet. So yeah, those are like three of the folks I want to uplift in this space, their Instagrams, yeah.
Yeah, no, rock and roll. We're going to have this list at the end, and there is another question that you will answer that everyone will have access to, and then just make sure that we have your emails and stuff after the series because we're going to have this amazing list. So thank you for uplifting those folks, and you all will be getting that list by just tuning in. So you've been very busy. Lady Dane, you're reading 6 books, you're writing a play, and you're writing all the books?
Yeah, well, I have. So I've been ruminating on infrastructure of a nation for a while. I originally was going to do a book of essays that I was working on for a bit, but then I was just like, essays, right? I'm gonna release it later. But I knew that, like, given where we were, what was happening with voting, with this current administration, I wanted to, have a critique of colonization and white supremacy and really the country, right? And so Infrastructure of a Nation, the first half is really about like in a world of ruin, right? And then the epilogue is about worlds imagined, right? So like, what kind of world do you want that's free of oppression? And then like, who are you in that world, right? So it ends with some hopefulness. But you got to do the work first. So you got to do the journey, right? So I wrote that. That's coming out this Friday. And Baltimore Center Stage commissioned me at the beginning of the summer to write a piece, which is amazing, a full-length play. And you're from
Baltimore originally, right?
Yeah. That's where I'm from originally, yeah. And the first half takes place, it's part of my Baltimore cycle. And the thing about the Baltimore cycle is that it's all timey-wimey, right? So like the first half takes place in 1861 during the Civil War in Baltimore. There was the Pratt Street Riot that was there. an historical event that kind of was like the first kind of, I guess, battle where like blood was spilled, because there was a riot because the 6 Massachusetts from the Union had to basically get off at one train stop, march through Pratt Street, and then get on a train to go defend DC. And there were a lot of Southern sympathizers there, and like they were not trying to it was a hot mess. So yeah, I'll talk about that later. And then the second half takes place in 1946 after World War II in this same kind of community of people. And 2 of the characters, one is a Japanese man, and then who has fought in both the Civil War and World War I. And then another is a Black trans woman based off of Mary Ann Waters, who was an actual Black trans woman in Baltimore, who was arrested in 1851, and that's how we know of her existence. She is another main character, and they're both like 100 by the end of the show. So I'm doing all this research about, sex work, body houses, brothels, all of these things, and also, and of course the intern. Like you can't write a play with a Japanese character in 1946 and not talk about internment camps, right? You can't write a play about what was happening during World War II. There's another Asian woman in the show, and not have a conversation about the imperialism and the comfort women, right? Which we know was like sex trafficking happening in Europe and Japan. So so it's a lot of the reading is also about that, and the fact that even though Baltimore had what we would call the largest free Black population, they did also have an enslaved Black population as well. So they were her property, really frames it in this way of talking about white women's participation in chattel slavery. So yes, those are just a few things I've been up to this summer.
I was going to say a few things. That's like a lot of things, like, whoa. I mean, but I'm really excited that you've actually been able to keep your creative juices flowing in this moment, because I know a lot of artists who actually have done the opposite route and actually taken the time to actually have some self-care in this moment. So some folks have been so productive, and then other folks are like trying to actually balance, like, everything that's going on in the world, like how can I actually hold some time and stuff like that. So
I've said no a lot too. I'll say that. I've said no a lot too. Like, that is also part of the self-care, right? I think that, like, saying no to certain things, I've been like, it's not enough money.
Yeah, if you only have so much time, yeah, for sure. Ryan, what have you been up to? What's your summer been like? And have you been putting on plays with your folks?
No, never.
Musicals?
No. As I said, I haven't like written new material per se. I have sort of lived the experience of what will be my Shonda Ayama commission, which is my grandmother passed away from stomach cancer in August after 10 months. And I had never been given the opportunity when losing a close loved one to actually literally say goodbye and have them say goodbye on their terms and like give all the closure that they wanted before they were able to like leave Earth. And of course it's not like a movie. It's not, she said like, I'm ready to go. And then she didn't go for 3 weeks, right? But she got all the things out that she wanted to say. And that is such a cathartic experience that I really only thought existed in fiction. But then there it was, and I was living it. So that was the big, huge bulk of my summer. And I will write about it. I just don't feel quite ready yet. So I'm gonna give it some space. And then I've been rewriting mostly theater projects that had momentum before the pandemic, and then the world is paused. And so what is the future of these plays going to be? I have no idea. One is called Good Time Charlie, which is sort of a multi-character gay fantasia family romp about my cousin, Uncle Charlie, who is one generation older than me, and my experiences together in the same Lebanese American family, navigating our lives sort of as gay men. And it's about diverged dreams and ambition, and also grief and loss, and all the real life stuff that comes when you're, you know, not trying to be an actor in New York, which is what the autobiographical character of Ryan is doing in that play. And then I have a solo play called Dark Disabled Stories, which has been in development for several years with the Bushwick Star, and is now having a reading actually this week and next, with the Star and another off-Broadway theater I don't know if I could or should name, but I'm grateful that it still has support for development. And also for Good Time Charlie, we did a reading with Pride Plays. So I've been able to improve the writing of these projects, even though maybe, you know, in advance of the pandemic, I feel like Good Time Charlie it was very close to having a future mapped out, and then we were told that future is not possible going forward. So it's just sort of what is the reset, and how do you move forward, not giving up on these theater projects that need their moment, but knowing that moment probably won't come for a few years. And two other things. One is that because theater is paused, and frankly, Woolly Mammoth is the only theater that I'm engaging with right now in a real concrete way about something tangible, I have sort of started to decide that there is this catalog of autobiographical material that I've written across all of my plays, in which there's a character named Ryan and a family named the Haddad family. And what can we do with not just adapting one of those for the screen or for television, but taking the stories inside all of those plays, accepting that they're all part of the same sort of world, and finding a new format for them and a new arc for them so that they're better suited for television than just straight adapting one of the pieces. So that's twirling around in my mind. And then most recently, which is very exciting and surprising, I've been doing a sort of a writer's room, a mini baby first ever writer's room. It's not WGA, it's not TV, it's a web-based project, but it is, you know, someone called and said, would you like to do this? And it would be good training for you, is how it was pitched to me. And it's the best I couldn't have done it, like, if somebody didn't give me this chance to even know what that world is like, how to collaborate with 7 other writers and build a world together. So I'm very grateful for that. And that's also happening in these 2 weeks.
And some rewriting on Hire You Single. Some really good rewriting on Hire You Single.
Oh, wink, 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 under the artistic direction of Maria. And director, collaborator Laura Savia on that piece. Thank you for saying that. I was very nervous that you wouldn't like the rewrites, and you did. So I'm happy. And and I'm also I want to say, like, I know that our version of what that was going to be has shifted and changed over time, over the past year since you called me on January 2nd. But wow, like, to just be in conversation about, like, theater that is actually alive, and something that is concrete is so rare, and not a lot of leaders are leading in the way that you are. So I'm just tooting your horn a little bit.
No, I appreciate that. That means a lot. And what I appreciate is also artists like yourself and Lady Dane adapting to this moment and being able to actually be on that ride. You know, Lady Dane was actually one of the first people who I called on the Play at Home series that we did right after the pandemic, like literally 2 weeks after it, just to be like, you want to write a 5-minute play? We're going to put it out in the world for people at home to do it, you know? And you know, you jumped at that chance, and just in the way that you're meeting this moment, Ryan, as an artist, and sort of allowing yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to stay flexible and nimble and adaptable, has been really rewarding for me too, frankly. You know, I keep thinking about the you know, the pandemic, but as well, like the visibility of the Black Lives Matter movement yet again, right? This is like a lot, like so many Black, Indigenous, and people of color, all of these groups, these collectives have been sort of speaking to equitable presence, not just in the field, but in the world. Look at how we see this disparities yet again, you know, with this pandemic. And so I just keep thinking about how have your creative practices changed, like, and been impacted by all that has happened, not just COVID related, but also just the fact of, you know, white folks are waking up to some stuff.
Yeah.
I think that, well, you know, Nina Simone has said an artist must reflect the times, right? And, you know, comment on the times, push us towards a healing, you know, hold people accountable, et cetera, et cetera. And so I feel like so much of my work have been steeped in the politics of liberation and the praxis of liberation anyway, and the experiencing of folks who are impacted by structural oppression as fully having the right to name how we interact with them. And so, you know, I did the Homebound series. I did the I think the 51st Date at Arena Stage. I wrote monologues, and I wrote an episode for Homebound. And then I also, with Long Wolf Theater, we did the inaugural Black trans women at the center. I think you're friends with Jacob, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We work together at the Public. We still work together all the time. And that festival is a big deal that you all did that in Long Wharf. Yeah. And I know, Ryan, you're working with Jacob too. So let's plug Long Wharf here. They're doing amazing work. And right now, One City, Many Stages, the whole thing that they're making happen is just beautiful, beautiful work for me.
And part of that for me, you know, was the fact that I really, I said that I went into that meeting a director, and I left that meeting a producer. And I think it's because it's so important in these times, you know, Miss Rona, along with all the tragedy that she brought, she also brought this moment in which we are being asked to reflect on who do we want to be as humans and as a society coming out of this. And so it's deeply important. Oh gosh, my friend was a cry. And so, and so I think it's so deeply important that in the work of the artist, that we seize this moment however we want to, whether it is a moment of rest for us, whether it is a moment of restoration, whether it is a moment of holding institutions and individuals accountable, whether it is a moment of healing, whether it's a moment of joy, whether it's all of those things, right? Depending on what day or hour or minute it is, for us to really, really, really honor that artistic voice that perhaps before now has been stifled, erased, because now was the time. Now was the time to fully be invested in you as an artist. So that is what I have been doing. I have been cultivating pathways for members of my communities who I feel have been not centered in many artistic places.
I appreciate that. And I know you've been doing that before this moment too. And I know, Ryan, you've been doing all of the work that you've been doing in terms of visibility and amplification of the disabled community way before this moment. And I'm curious about, how this moment has actually amplified that for you too, Ryan. Thank you, Lady Dane, for sharing that. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Well, I've been trying first and foremost to listen and to learn and understand that my experience, regardless of living in a disabled body, is not the Black experience by any means. And that this is a moment of horror and turmoil, and also not a moment, because it has been going on for decades and decades, and especially concentrated in the Black Lives Matter movement over the last decade. I'm excited for the momentum that seems to be happening now, that has continued all throughout the summer, and that there are changes in all these facets of the world and society and industry. Different industries are calling, are lifting Black leaders, Black stories. It's so important, and it's so important now in this time of an election in Washington, D.C. And well, it's everywhere, but the idea of like, you're both in Washington, and I can't even imagine the proximity at this moment in time and how necessary it is to elect leadership that acknowledges that Black Lives Matter and actually means it with their whole heart and soul, and creates legislation and protections to enforce that, because we don't have that in our national leadership. We don't have a lot of things in our national leadership, but that's first and foremost what I have done, is listen and learn, because my experience, even as a disabled person and a Lebanese American person, is not the experience of a Black person. And what I remember when, when George Floyd's murder happened and then the protests began, it was the end, we know it was the end of May, but that means that on June 1st, typically for all the gays in my feed, the gay men and lots of white gay men in my feed, it's Pride Month, and it's time for rainbows, and it's time for celebration, even with COVID. And I remember being like, no, we do not co-opt this stage. We do not co-opt this month. This is bigger than this is bigger than flags, and this is bigger than drinking, and this is bigger than Fire Island, and oh wow. I also remember it was right around the time that Larry Kramer died, and the influx of silence from the people in my feed about George Floyd and about Black Lives Matter, that then those same people within 20 seconds of the obituary about Larry Kramer were throwing up their posts and their tributes and their memories. And not that he didn't deserve that and doesn't deserve that, he absolutely does, for what he did for LGBT people and the fight for HIV and AIDS. But it's just the separation that I think is something I'm trying to address. And how can we merge the intersections of the Black Lives Matter movement with LGBTQ movements, with disabled movements, and realize that we all are fighting for the same kind of space and the ability to feel worthy in this country and in the world. And if we didn't have to separate quite so much and could recognize the intersection of, there are Black disabled queer people who hit all three, and who are even more vulnerable to these injustices. And so how can we find and support those individuals and those communities and collectively rise together, instead of trying to just say like, oh, but I care more about Larry Kramer. you know, I care more about Larry Kramer than I do, you know, about Black Lives Matter. That was a thing that I could feel just in the silence of what people were posting. And social media is not the only thing we can go off of, but when you're in a pandemic and everybody's in their house, it's pretty much a clear indication. So that's what I've been doing, and also just examining my own work and artistic practices. I wrote a piece for Long Wharf about disability inclusion in the American theater that was supposed to be published in mid-May. Had I met the deadline, it would have been published in mid-May. I didn't meet the deadline, and then George Floyd happened and the protests happened, and I said, this is not the moment. Thank you so much for this platform to write this piece. Let's hold it until July, until Disability Pride Month, because I don't want to take space. And finally, thinking about the ways in which my work, which is predominantly solo work, can expand and become more multi-character and give opportunities to more disabled individuals across spectrums of race and sexuality, so that a wider range of stories can be told. Not saying I'm going to stop making solo work. I think I'll be doing that until I'm 80, but I want to push myself to work a little harder and tell bigger stories as well.
You know, I'm thinking about that. You as 80 doing your own cabaret. That will occur, I am sure, at some point. So we've got about 8 minutes left or so. And I really want to ask this question, you know, because a lot of it has hit our industry. A lot of these questions are hitting our industry in ways that, you know, there's some panic hiring going on. There's some different things occurring. I really would love to hear what action or change are you most anxious to see become a reality in the theater as we move to a future where we will be safe to open our doors again.
Oh gosh. Okay. Let me try to consult my notes, child. You want to go ahead, Ryan?
You want to go ahead, Ryan, first? You can just pick one. You can just pick one. I know there's a lot.
Well, yeah, I want disabled stories to be told. I want disabled stories to be told, and I want the disability arts and disability theater community to diversify in a way that they're not. You know, disability arts and disability theater has sort of wrongly been skewed with a white lens in a white direction, when there are so many other artists whose voices are needed and valuable and intersectional in so many ways. And I want those stories to be told, but I don't want disability to be left behind from this reckoning of how can we make theater better. And that is both about access and audience engagement, which includes open captioning, sign language interpretation, audio description, relaxed performances, and on and on and on. I'm part of a group where somebody recently who is deafblind said, you know, none of those things work for me. I'm deafblind. So what are we going to do? And I went, oh, and so did a whole bunch of us. We're like, we didn't even know, like we didn't even consider that kind of thing. So it's about access, but it's also about the hiring. It's also about the stories that are being told. It's also about leadership. It's also just about casting in shows that have nothing to do with disability. You can't have a fabulous disabled actor, of course you can. And that is inclusive of theater and film and television, but I really want to push theater because we're supposed to be this beacon of hope and opportunity and welcoming practices, which I feel like have long been lost on the disability community. And I just want to make sure that we continue to be elevated as we were prior to the pandemic.
Well, I would hope that after High Are You Single, I want to do like snaps and claps and all this kind of stuff. But yes, 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 Ryan, there were so many quotes in there that we just need to take out and be like, Ryan J. Haddad, like, you know. So the thing that the thing I keep thinking about is actually one of the things, if you don't get a shit ton of offers from DC theaters after they see High Are You Single, I'm going to march up to those artistic directors' offices and be like, what are you doing? Because this is also about, you know, hopefully amplifying you here so that you actually get to play all of those parts. I firmly believe in that, and I believe in that with you. I mean, Lady Dane, you've actually moved into, you know, you're there, you're making that happen. Are you ready for this question now?
I am. I was like, oh, child, after 20,000 years.
It's that moment. It's that moment. Sorry.
No. It's, you know, it's so.
It's the Virgo in me, you know?
There's so many amazing, I will say this, there are so many amazing companies in DC who are being more expansive. One is Angel Rose Arts, who had scheduled the Diaz family, like a reading fundraiser of the Diaz family talent show. But I think they have to move it to October. But I know that they like, the artistic director, Patrona, she's every time there's an event in DC, she's like, is there closed captioning? Is there sign language? Is there, right? Like, she is like on it. And that their company is one that really, really, really is really, really, really shifting and changing the ways in which we not only experience theater, but the intentionality behind it. And so I wanted to also just uplift that because they're a small trans-led, all trans, POC, Black and Indigenous company.
You said Angel Rose?
Angel Rose Arts
Angel
Collective,
Rose
yeah.
Arts Collective.
And they're named after a trans sister of ours who was killed last year. Yeah, so they used to have a different name and then they changed it in honor of her. She was a part of the company before. To answer this question, oh gosh, it's like, I feel like I have this, you know, I was at the TCG it's like I'm always like, I've answered this question so much. So I will just say this. I will say, I would like to see an American theater that does not pedal to the white gaze. I would like to see an American theater that does not assume that guilt is the same thing as accountability. I would like to see an American theater that does not believe ableism or transphobia or homophobia or anti-Blackness, etc., are justifiable under any circumstance. I would like to experience an American theater that holds not only itself accountable, but also its collaborators, meaning its boards and its funders. So often we talk about the way forward, but we have yet to reckon with the past. And that is because we live in a society that wants to circumvent the work that is needing to be done. Instead of feeling, reflecting, being accountable, then move forward, which we need to do. We want to only focus on the next step. And so I think for me, ultimately, as I have been doing this work for a long time, as Maria has said, I'm recognizing that all of these isms, right, transphobia, homophobia, ableism, anti-Blackness, racism, the economic violence that are impacted by marginalized communities, that all of these things find its root within colonization, and white supremacy and imperialism, right? Patriarchy finds its root there as we experience it here in this modern age. And so I think that part of this, what I want the American theater to understand is that the American theater is not free of needing to be accountable to the communities who have been most impacted by these oppressive systems. That we are actually the American theater, each and every one of us. The institution is the institution. It is something that we have ordained as being, we have almost, ordained it and given it this permission to produce theatrical work, but all of us are the American theater. And so each and every one of us in our personal lives have to do the deep and intentional and integral work of dismantling internalized white supremacy and all the things that are birthed and all the oppressive systems that are birthed from it, and also fight towards liberation, which liberation is different than freedom and different than equality, because liberation means that you are free from oppression, free from oppressive forces. And so I want each and every one of us, whether we're on this call, whether you're tuning in today, wherever you are, to take this call of action and to do the work of liberation and utilize the gifts and the access that you have to make sure that in our spaces are reflecting the type of world that we want to see, which is one free of oppression for us all. That's my answer to that.
Oh yeah, hello. There's another one. We're all, me and Ryan, you've got the, you've got the standing ovation, my friend. You have got it. Agreed. 4,000%. Thank you for that. So I think, so where can we find you online? I'm gonna wrap up now. I'm gonna get to, so tell us, Lady Dane, where can we find you on the socials?
You can go to my Instagram at Lady Dane FE. I do a Thursdays live every Thursday, unless I'm already booked for an event, honey. But I'll let you know, in which I actually read some of my work, and then I have a conversation about current events. And that's about 30 minutes from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that's probably, and you can find me on Twitter now.
Website.
Oh, I do. www.ladydanefe.com, which needs an update, honey, because she is
reading, writing plays, writing books.
And I always tell people, I say, you know what, if you have enjoyed this conversation today, make sure that you Venmo me at Lady Dane, and also Venmo Ryan.
Ryan, do you have a Venmo?
Of course, at Ryan-Haddad-2, because I didn't get the 1 or the 0. So it's at Ryan-Haddad-2. I'm wearing a pink shirt in the profile.
Where else can folks find you online? Website or socials?
On my very stale website at ryanjhaddad.com, and on Instagram and Twitter at ryanjhaddad. And I also have a Facebook page, but it isn't a public page. It's just my Facebook page. So if you go there, click follow, but don't click friend, because I probably don't know you. So it would, it's a lot to receive friend requests from strangers.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Ryan and Lady Dane. It's just so wonderful to spend time with such bright lights. I mean, really, you both inspire me greatly. And thank you to everyone on Facebook for watching, for tuning in. Please make sure you come back on October 25th. I will be joined by Toshi Regan. Yeah, totally. We're going to be talking about Parable of the Sower, which is going to be coming to DC. Toshi's an amazing artist, and she wrote that piece with her mom, Bernice Johnson Reagan of Sweet Honey in the Rock. So I hope you tune in on October 25th. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Lady Jane.
You two stay, though.
We know.
Okay. Oh, are we off? Well, live is over. Okay, great. I wanted to make sure I was like, don't leave. Don't leave.
No. Is it still recording? Are we still live? We're not live.
We're not live anymore. It's still recording, though.
Okay,
we're now you can take some time, actually. So we're gonna do a break. You did beautifully. Both of you did so beautifully. I adore you both. I mean, did you see how you two should be great friends and doing things together? You understand why we were like, hello, this is a match made in heaven.
I do see that, actually. I do. Like, just from like being in combo with you for a little bit, I was like, you know what, when things open back up again, and I know I'm probably going to be going to New York for something, I'll be like, Ryan, what you doing?
Please.
What you doing?
We'll stand on opposite sides of Central Park and wave at each other.
Totally. Okay, so it's 6:04. Why don't we come back at 6:10? So take 6 minutes, refill your drink and stuff like that, and then we'll talk to the folks who are in the Zoom room with us, okay?
Awesome.
All right. See you in a bit. Tune in on October 25th. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Maria.